Chapter 10, Mishnah 1. In order to safeguard the purity of mechatas, the rabbis enacted extraordinarily strict standards of tahara for it. For example, the rabbis decreed that even tahor people and objects are considered tameh with regard to mechatas, unless they were guarded from tuma with the specific intent of being tahor for mechatas purposes. The Mishnahs of this chapter discuss this, and some of the other tuma stringencies the rabbis enacted for mechatas. The following Mishnah deals with a zav, zava, and nida, and with objects to which they transmit tuma. A zav, zava, or nida is tame as an avatuma. They transmit tuma not only to people and utensils that touch them, but also to things that carry or move even without touching, and to someone who carries or moves them even without touching them. A zav, zava, and nida also transmit tuma to objects that are intended to sit or lie on, such as a chair or bed, by sitting or lying down on the object, even if they do not touch it directly. For example, when the bed is covered by a sheet, this means of transmitting tuma is known as a midrash. Things that become tame through midrash are an avatuma, like the zav, zava, and nida themselves. An object that became tame through midrash transmits tuma to a person who touches it, or carries, sits, or lies on it, even without touching it directly. Now we turn to the words of the Mishnah. Any object that can become tame through midrash, such as a chair or a bed, is tame with a light, i.e., rabbinic tuma of midrash. With regard to mechatas, that is, with regard to mechatas, we treat the chair or bed as rabbinically tame with tumas midrash, even though a zav never sat or lay on it. It is therefore considered an avatuma, and if someone carries or moves it or sits or lies on it, he becomes tame for mechatas purposes, even if he never touched it directly. It makes no difference whether the object is tame or tahor. Even if the object is known not to have become tame with tumas midrash, it is still considered tame with regard to mechatas, unless it was guarded from tuma specifically for the purpose of being tahor for matters concerning mechatas. The Mishnah cites another strict rule that the rabbis decreed for the tahara of mechatas. And a person is like an object that can become tame with tumas midrash in this respect. That is, a person is also considered a rabbinic avatuma with regard to mechatas. Just as the rabbis decreed that an object that can become tame with tumas midrash is treated as if it actually did become tame with that tuma, so too they decreed that a person is treated as if he or she became tame as a zav, zava, or nida. Thus, if someone who is tahor for mechatas moves someone who is not tahor for mechatas, he too becomes tame in regard to mechatas. The Mishnah now discusses an object that cannot become tame with tumas midrash, but can become tame from a corpse. Any object that can only become tame with corpse tuma, but cannot become tame with tumas midrash. Its law in regard to mechatas is as follows: whether the object is actually tame with corpse tuma or is tahor from it. Rabbi Eliezer says it is not tame with a light, i.e. rabbinic tuma of midrash, with regard to mechatas. Since the object cannot become tame with real tumas midrash, the rabbis did not decree tumas midrash on it with regard to mechatas, despite the strict tahara standards they enacted for mechatas. The next Tana disagrees with Rabbi Eliezer's ruling. Rabbi Yeshua says an object that can become tame with corpse tuma is also tame with the light tuma of midrash with regard to mechatas, even though it cannot become tame with real tumas midrash. The sages disagree with both Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua, but the sages say any object that is actually tame with corpse tuma is, with regard to mechatas, also tame with light tuma of midrash. But an object that is tahor from corpse tuma is not tame with the light tuma of midrash.